Welcome to the Cohn Zone. This is a special Cohn Zone. That's my dad, Lowell Cohn, who's much more than my dad. He's a legend of Bay Area sports journalism, which might as well be like saying he's a legend of Polish sports journalism, because really, who cares about us out here? I'm Grant Cohn, and we're going to be instantly reacting to the 49ers move at the deadline, and we're going to talk big picture stuff. So, the news. They traded for Washington Commanders edge rusher, defensive end, Chase Young. He was the second pick in the draft a few years ago. He has 5 sacks this year. He makes the 49ers defensive line better. What is your first take of this move?
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I mean. That was a snotty thing to say. He makes their defensive line. Be careful, Dad. He makes a defensive line better, and that's very good. You always want to improve at whatever part of your team you can. But from my old thinking, and I will be 78 years old tomorrow, that's old style football. Old style football is you improve your pass rush, you sack the quarterback, blah, 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 blah. Except in current football, the quarterbacks get rid of the ball so fast, it sort of negates a lot of the pass rush a lot of the time. Like this guy, Chase Young, would he have made a big difference against Joe Burrow on Sunday? Joe Burrow was it was electric. He was getting the ball out so fast. And Iggy, he had 18 or 19 completions in a row.
19.
I mean, 19. They have some pretty good pass rushes there. Hargrave, number 97. So I think it's a good move in that it improves the team, but it's old-fashioned and it's the wrong move. That's what I think.
Yeah. And it's like when the Niners are in a crisis moment, do they address a weakness or add to a strength? Add to a strength.
Love it.
Because it's like, it's hard to acknowledge a weakness. We have things that aren't so strong about us. I don't think the Niners like going there. I think they feel like, no, that's what we wanted from our offensive line. That's what we wanted from our secondary. The problem is that our defensive line isn't as great. It's good, but it isn't as great as it needs to be, because we're really good all over the place. We've had some bad luck, but if we get a great D line, it's like, I'm not sure about that, because it looks like if you look at the advanced numbers, they're generating pressure. They're just not getting the final step to get the sack. Is it because they're slowing down before they get to the quarterback, or is it because the quarterback can get the ball out of his hand so quickly because the coverage is soft? I think it's that.
Yeah. So what I feel about the 49ers is they're not thinking clearly. They're old style thinking, and they're confused in their priorities. So I give him all the credit in the world for getting another edge rusher. He's an edge rusher, Iggy. He'll be on the other side from Bosa. So I give him all the credit in the world for that, but I don't give him all the credit in the world for improving their team in the places they needed to improve it, which we will address later in the show. I just want to say one thing, a personal note. Last time I told everybody that I had a cold. Turns out I had COVID. I had never had it before. And I got this drug my doctor gave me called Paxlovid, which really helped. And I finished it Sunday night, and I've tested Monday and Tuesday, and I'm negative both days. But man, I am so tired. I know a lot of you have probably had COVID, and I was telling Iggy, when we're done with our show today, I'm taking a nap. I seem to have no energy. I'm old, but I wonder if that's how you experience it as well, aside from the illness, this incredible fatigue. So enough about me. Iggy, did we do that subject, or should we beat it to death?
Should we beat it to death? No, good move, but it just was a very 49ers-esque move. Another D lineman.
Yeah. Yeah. As the great John Gruden would say, I feel the move was irrelative. He used to say that all the time. Yeah. He used to say, Gruden, he say it's irrelative. So I think it's irrelative.
Yeah. If they had gotten a cornerback, I would have changed my mind. It just feels like it's easy for the Niners to what I wanted to say. They traded for Randy Gregory a few weeks ago. He's been good. It's made no difference. And so now they're telling themselves, now it's Randy's fault. Randy hasn't been good enough. We're going to get another guy. Like, maybe try a different position.
Yeah. And I got another question, which is for Washington. How does Ron Rivera feel about getting rid of this edge rusher? Does that mean they're done? They're done. How does he feel about that?
Yeah.
He doesn't feel he's done.
We just waved the white flag after 8 games. They just gave Philly everything they could handle. And it's sorry, Ron. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to lose your edge, right? Yeah.
Fish and Chip says, Grant, don't let the trade distract from the team woes. We're going to talk about the team woes, but this
woes.
Jermaine Pickett just gifted 5 Grant Cohn memberships. I'm not sure what that means, but you guys might want to look into that. Hero Winchester says, Chase is nice, but I feel like we blew a chance to go all in with our load of picks and cap space. We shouldn't have extended Kyle and Lynch. They work best when under pressure of being fired.
Hold on. To say they shouldn't have extended Jed, those 2 guys, is an understatement.
Yeah.
They certainly work better under stress. I'm not sure they work better anytime.
Ooh. Yep. Scribe Mind says, we had similar thoughts about another trade last year, another running back. I'll give benefit of the doubt. Okay, fair enough. We'll see. Oh, he's a good player. Mark, member for 12 months. Thank you, Mark. HB Nate 55 says, glad you're feeling better, Lowell. Keep up the good work, guys.
Thanks, HB.
Okay. So the Niners just added an edge rusher. It's the bye week. It's time for them to take stock of themselves. It is time for us to take stock of them too. I like to give grades after wins and losses. Let's grade each position on the team and the coaching staff halfway through the season at 5 and 3.
Okay, let's start with an overall grade for the team. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to cough a little. For an overall grade for the team right now.
Why don't we finish with the overall grade for the overall grade for the team?
Sure, sounds fair to me.
Is that okay?
Yep.
I'm buying.
So where do we start?
I didn't do that one.
Where do we start?
Let's start at quarterback.
Okay.
Brock Purdy.
May I go first?
Yes.
Okay, this is going to frustrate and anger a lot of people, and it's okay. It's just my opinion. C+. And I'd like to say why. If you had asked me after the first 5 games to give Brock Purdy a letter grade, I would have given him an A, and I would have given it happily. I would have been proud to give him an A because he's such a wonderful story, and he's a very good player. Not a great player, but he's a very good player. But his last 3 performances, despite what the numbers show, his passer rating, have been abysmal. Especially the last 2, and I want to be very clear on this. You could say that the defense lost the game for them in the last 2 games, and they're certainly complicit. So I'm not saying they didn't, but Purdy also lost the game. In the last 2 games they've played, he had a chance to win at the end. Not only didn't he win, he gave it up. In both
turned the ball over.
Turned the ball over. In both cases, it's not only that he didn't win, he failed. He failed. He gave.
I believe he has 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter of the last 2 games. 3 turnovers, 3 picks, and a fumble.
Can't do it. And so what I want to say is when you give up the ball, it wipes out so many of the good things you've done. It
Correct.
wipes out your completion percentage, your winning percentage, your charming good looks. Giving the ball up makes you like Matt Ryan. It makes you like Matthew Stafford. You don't want those guys on your team. So based on what he's done in 8 games, not in the first 5, I give him a C+, and I consider that a fairly good grade and generous.
I give him a C+ as well. He is the main reason they lost the last 2 games. And he was one of the main reasons they lost the one before that. 17 points, 3 weeks in a row. The way I look at it is he didn't have to do much the first 5 games of the year. His supporting cast was healthy. His defense was rolling. He had everyone around him. He was putting up 30 points without breaking a sweat. But as soon as he lost a couple players on offense, and the Niners said, all right, man, like, be elite. Be the real deal. Carry us. He couldn't. No. He not only could he not carry him, he fumbled. He fumbled it away. He dropped him.
Dropped him.
That's
couldn't
the completed metaphor. Him. Thank you. Yeah.
I was an English major. Yeah.
I tried. Anyway. C+. All right, running back.
B.
Ooh.
What about you?
I gave him an A. B. But I'm a generous grader. California.
Okay. I want to say in every one of these grades, I will defer to you. Christian McCaffrey's great, but Iggy, his running, his yards per carry has fallen off.
I blame the offensive line and Kyle for overusing him, but he's got almost 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns through 8 games.
Okay.
I mean, from scrimmage, 1,000 yards from scrimmage. I don't know. He did fumble against the Vikings, and that was one of the main reasons the Niners lost.
And also, you said running backs. You didn't say Christian McCaffrey.
That's a good point.
And the coach is not using the other running backs.
That's
I
a
don't
good
think
point.
he's using them intelligently. I think he's getting the little guy, number 23, and he is a little guy, beat up too much. So, no, I'm sticking on this one, Iggy. I'm sticking with the B.
I'm deferring to you. I think you made a good. We'll each give our grade and we'll debate it a little bit and see if who agrees with who. I like yours. That's a good point. It's not just McCaffrey; it's all of them. All right.
You
Wide
said
receivers.
running backs.
All right, I'm writing it down. B.
Oh,
Wide
boy.
receivers.
Right, wide receivers. Okay, Ayuk is phenomenal. Wide receivers. Debo is sort of irrelative.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a tough one. Ayuk is so good. The others, I have to give him an A minus. As a group, what do you think?
I
Too
give him
high?
a B. There's no way I'm putting him above the running backs. Ayuk's
Okay.
good, but when it's time for him to carry the team, he can't do it either. He has some big drops the last few weeks
Okay.
during this losing streak. I'd give him a B as well. Jawan Jennings has done nothing this year. Nothing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Debo's really not done much. I'm persuaded. I think
Yeah.
B sounds
B.
like a good grade and a fair grade. And I want you to remember, people, B is a good grade. I don't know how you were in school. I got B's sometimes, and I didn't go crying. B's a good grade.
B's a good grade. B's a good grade. Okay, tight ends.
Okay, tight ends. It's really just one guy. Iggy, I'm going to have to give him an A. I'm going to have to give Kittle an A.
I gave
You
Kittle
don't
an A
like
as
it.
well. I gave Kittle
Okay.
an A as well. He's having a really good bounce back season. Got to give him an A.
And
Yeah.
I would say some other things about him. I thought maybe he was getting to the point of being washed up.
Me too.
No. He's really a hell of a blocker, and he's good at it, and he doesn't mind. He seems to like doing it. He runs great routes. He has great hands, and he's a tough guy. He is. I think maybe he's a bit of a phony, and with those glasses and stuff, in the press conferences. But I'm not grading his press conference performances. I also there's something lighthearted about him that I kind of find attractive. But I think he's one of the elite tight ends in the league and is playing that way. So an A for me.
Yeah, and last 2-3 years, I kept wondering, why is he not getting the ball? Like, why are there these games where he has 3 catches for 29 yards? You're paying him all this money. Is he not getting open? And I think what's clear is that it's a Kyle thing. There's just certain weeks where Kyle Shanahan isn't focused on George Kittle and is focused on getting the ball to other guys. Once he actually calls George Kittle's number, he produces.
He does. Yeah.
It's not a George issue. It's a Kyle issue. So I give him an A.
So yeah, A.
A. Offensive line.
Oh boy. D.
D.
D. What do you think?
I gave him
we
a
agree
C
on that.
minus. I gave him a C minus, but I was trying.
I could live with that. I could live
Yeah.
with a C minus.
Yeah.
Let me say why I grade him low. I don't think the right side can pass protect very well. And I feel that they're not opening up, as the season rolls along, they're not really opening up holes for the running game. So I guess those are the two things they have to do. I could live with a C plus, Iggy. I wouldn't fight with that. That's okay. What do you think?
C minus. I'm just going C minus here. I didn't want to give him a failing grade because I feel like the Niners, they haven't gotten Purdy injured yet. I feel like they've done a decent job, but Trent Williams is good but hurt. Aaron Banks is good but hurt, and the rest of the offensive line is decent at best. I wouldn't say the right side of the offensive line isn't good at anything. It's not good at run blocking. It's not good at pass protection. Everything is to the left.
Iggy, I want to just come back to one thing you said. They haven't gotten the quarterback hurt yet. Yes, they have. He's been hurt
they have.
each of the last 2 games.
That's true.
He hasn't hurt his arm. He's hurt his head twice.
That's a good point.
And again, we'll talk about Kyle later. I think he's exposing the kid to risk beyond what, if I were the coach, I would be doing. But they have gotten him hurt 2 games in a row.
All right, let's go with D then. D line.
Oh, what an overrated bunch. Okay, in terms of talent, they're an A. In terms of production, C.
I'm going to split the difference and give them a B and say that a big reason they're not producing is because of the back end.
Fair
because
enough.
the secondary. I'm going to give them a B. They haven't been good against the run. I think they could be better as pass rushers if the coverage wasn't so soft.
Okay, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to come up to a B minus.
Fair enough. B minus.
I'm willing to come up to a B minus.
I like it. And now that they have Chase Young, maybe it'll be higher. We'll see. Linebackers.
Yeah. Oh, Greenlaw's been hurt, but Iggy, that's an A group. They make so many tackles. Okay, I see that puss. You're making the puss.
Know. I mean, why are the Niners 16th out of 32 teams in yards per carry allowed? Like, that's as mediocre as it gets against the run. And part of it's the D-line, but the D-line gets credit for rushing the quarterback. The linebackers are there to stop the run. And they're not doing it. I mean, Greenlaw's been hurt. I think Fred Warner's having a really overrated year. I mean, he talks a lot. He's the leader of the team, but
so what would you give him?
C.
I'm persuaded. Sounds good to me.
C. I mean, I don't care their reputation. I don't think they're playing that well. DBs.
F.
Absolutely. F.
You agree?
All of them. Even Talanoa Hufanga, who was an all-pro last year, missing tackles galore. Tashawn Gibson, just out there. The corners, all bad. F.
And could we go a little further and say, even though the offensive line is not that good, the defensive backs is the worst unit on the team, worse than the offensive line?
Yes.
We agree on that. I mean, this is the glaring weakness, and it's why when they pick up an edge rusher, you're scratching your head and saying, edge rusher? What about these poor guys back there? Don't they need a little help?
Yeah, because it's still one of your best positions on the team, edge rusher. And you got an F position. You got a D and an F. A D at offensive line and an F at DB. Special teams.
Oh, that kid, he makes you nervous. Now he's come through nervous. Iggy, I'm going to have to give him a C.
Me too. How much confidence do you really have in Jake Moody? And then
finally, I'm going to have to give him a C.
Coaches.
Oh, I want to break him. I'm going to do it a certain way. Mm-hmm. Let's start with Kyle. As an offensive coordinator, I'm going to give him, as an offensive coordinator, a B, because he started out the season, scoring 30 or more points every game, but now in the last 3 games, he can't get nothing. So I'm going to give him a B. As a head coach, I'm going to give him a D.
Yeah.
As a head coach, because he started out beautifully and then blew it. He went from the team in the NFC to a team in the NFC, and that's on the head coach. So as a coordinator, B, but falling. Head coach, D. Defensive coordinator, D. Or an F. I'm sorry. It's not his fault, but nothing he's doing is working. Okay, then you know what? I was trying to be generous. I don't know him, but he seems like a man of great pride and great dignity, and
I agree.
I admire a leader. I admire him, but Iggy, I have to give him an F. It's not working. Would you go into a little on why you're giving him an F?
Well, schematically, he can't get his pass rush to work. He can't figure out how to get his pass rush to work. He has all this talent, whether he rushes 4, 5, 6, or 7, no one gets to the quarterback. He gets pressure, but he can't figure out that his secondary is or he can't work around his secondary. And it's D'Amico had the same guys last year and had a number 1 defense. And this guy is so concerned about his corners that he's playing them 10 yards off the ball and giving up and conceding his pass rush. So he can't stop the run, can't stop the pass. He's floundering. And then I got to disagree with you about Kyle as the offensive coordinator. When he was rolling, what he was doing was giving the ball to Christian McCaffrey too much, which we talked about earlier. That was not creative. That was reckless, and it led to them peaking in September, which we talked about. So now he loses. Christian McCaffrey gets a little banged up. He loses 2 players, and all of a sudden they can't get more than 17 points. Yeah. I kind of feel like whatever he is as a coach, he's not as creative as Mike McDaniel. And ever since Mike McDaniel left this team last year, they haven't been as creative on offense. Kyle's best idea is give the ball to Christian McCaffrey as much as humanly possible. That's Kyle.
Okay, what do you give him as an offensive
C.
coordinator? I'm persuaded. What do you give him as a head coach?
D. He's responsible for Wilkes.
And he's responsible for the 3-game losing streak.
Yeah,
Two
this team,
mediocre teams.
This team was cruising. They made it look easy. He didn't have to do that much. He had a very talented team that he and John Lynch put together that was uncharacteristically healthy early in the season. As soon as they lost a couple players, everything fell apart. They lost one game to PJ Walker, and they still haven't worked it out. And we're going to talk about why. But what coach? I mean, Robert Saleh lost Aaron Rodgers in the first drive of the season, and he's still in it. Kyle Shanahan loses to PJ Walker, and they can't pull themselves out of a tailspin. When he pulls himself out, when he wins another game, I'll give him higher than a D. But right now, he's looking like a guy who had an easy job and now has a real job, and he can't do it.
I love what you're saying. I love it, Iggy. And I would add, right now, Robert Saleh is doing a better coaching job than Kyle Shanahan.
So is Mike McDaniel. So is DeMeco Ryans. So, maybe not DeMeco Ryans, but he took over. He's on a terrible team. All of his underlings now surpassing him. So what would you give for the overall grade for the team?
Okay. At this point, where they stand, B.
B. I agree.
B.
I agree.
They're 5-3. They're in the conversation. They're no longer in first place, even in the division. They're in the conversation. If they win the next game, 6-3 is a very good record.
Yes.
If they lose the next game, But
No.
I for where they stand today, a B at the break.
I think that's very interesting. Dad, we have a bonus topic. This is breaking news, okay? According to Wesley Steinberg, who is a New York Giants insider, he says the Giants had a trade agreed with the 49ers for cornerback Adoree Jackson, but failed to report it to the league in time. How about that? I'll read it again. The Giants had a trade agreed upon with the 49ers for cornerback Adoree Jackson, but failed to report it to the league in time. If that's true, what do you think of that, Dad? They were trying to get a corner. They just couldn't get it done before the deadline.
Well, let me ask you this. It's a little vague. Does it mean the Giants made a mistake or the Niners made a mistake?
That's a good
question. Sounds like the
It's-
Giants.
Yeah, it sounds like it's the Giants, but it seems like they're sort of both complicit. Like if you wanted this deal to get done, maybe I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, interesting.
Jackson.
Iggy, do you know the player?
Yeah, he would have been an upgrade. He would have been a nice addition, Adoree Jackson. Instead, they don't have him. This feels like Keystone Cops. It feels minor league. You needed a corner. You missed the deadline by 3 minutes. What a shame. Boy, what a shame.
Go to the principal's office.
We're supposed to take you seriously, and you can't even get your trades in before the deadline, and we're supposed to take you seriously.
Okay, now we know very little about this, but it doesn't. It sounds good and bad. The good is they recognized they needed a cornerback. That's good. If all this is accurate, what's bad is they couldn't do it, and it's a clerical error. It's not like a bad choice. It's a clerical error. How do you do that? This is professional business.
Look, this all comes from Wesley Steinberg, who has 10.4 thousand followers. I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's true.
So
maybe
let's not go with it. Yeah.
It's one
do
guy.
Do you know Wesley Steinberg?
I don't know. I don't know no Wesley Steinberg. I don't know no Kissel.
I don't know no Wesley Steinberg.
It's what he said. Okay. I don't know. We'll find out. But if it's true that they almost had Adoree Jackson but couldn't pull it off, that's silly.
Okay, but let's not say it's written in cement because we don't know this Steinberg.
We don't know no Steinberg. Wild Wabbit says they needed a cornerback more than a defensive end to get Oliver off the field. Chase is injury prone and is tied for 21st with 5 sacks. The Commanders didn't want him. He's just a rental for a 3rd round pick. That's a sober account.
Okay.
What? Sober.
As far as rental goes, if they get him and he's good and he makes a difference, it's okay to rent him.
True. Stephen Pryor says trusting these Niners corners to get you through the rest of the season is like trusting Ooh, I'm not doing that. TD Eckler says young walks get third comp, may sign for less, prove it. Young walks get third comp, may sign for less, prove it. Okay. They can get a comp pick for him. Serenity says BP likely still affected by concussion. Time will tell.
I think that's quite possible.
Yep. Sven says, do you have any insight into why the cornerback trade broke down? Also, hope Pop feels better. I don't even know if it's true. We'll have to see. Anoop says, upon review, both Bengals interceptions by Purdy were due to terrible play design by Kyle. Strange goal line, sideline RPO, plus 2 wide receivers weakly over the middle. Kyle.
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Andrew Minard says the Niners' character flaw is the inability to adapt. We don't adapt to the changes to how the NFL teams operate. Not during the game. It's arrogance.
Or incompetence.
KOSCG says, where do you think the breakdown is coming from? The players, the play caller, or both? Is it because Kyle isn't using all of his weapons? We're going to talk about the breakdown. It might be bigger than that.
Yeah.
It might be bigger than that. Neil says, happy B-Day, Papa Cohn. It's tomorrow. But yeah,
thank you,
early
Neil.
B-Day. Joseph Stockbridge, member for 2 months. Austin, remember when you ranked Debo last in the importance of the offense? I'd argue he's second behind Trent. This offense is boring without him. Boring is an interesting word.
Okay, hold on. We said importance. I don't remember it, but I'm a little fuzzy-headed today. He's certainly not as important as the quarterback. He's certainly not as important as the running back. And he may not be as important as the other wide receiver.
Correct. Chance099 says, this is Kyle's team, scheme and plays. So why is he always on the sideline staring at the play sheet like it's someone else's homework? That is what it looks like. That's funny.
Yeah,
I like that. Joseph Stockbridge says, whispers Spotify. What are championship teams disciplines like? I don't think they have them dialed in here.
I agree.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Football Fossil says Kittle is the 6th O-line blocker too often, not a receiver. Reason they underspend over the rest of the offensive line. This clutters their run blocking between the tackles, hence the need to run to Kittle's end. Got it. Thank you. KOSEG says learned in Pee Wee football to wrap up to tackle. Ethan M says, isn't 0-37 a bigger indication of Kyle not being a clutch coach, play caller, rather than his quarterbacks not being clutch in the fourth? His system is flawed. 0-37 as the Niners head coach when he's down 8 in the fourth quarter.
He's not a clutch guy. He's not. But that doesn't mean that Purdy is a clutch guy.
Good point. Fernando says, Grant, the Niners could have had 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years, but I think they needed a better quarterback at the helm. Too much talent on the roster.
Was that Fernando?
Fernando, it was. Giants report came from fake account. Good
okay, thank you. So we didn't go crazy on that.
This team lost its identity once McDaniels left.
I think it has an identity. It loses 3 in a row.
Brian Strauss, my brother.
I know this
happy
guy.
Halloween to my favorite content creators, and happy birthday in advance to the dude LC. Love you both. I'm gonna get my own bag tonight. Reese's, Twix, and Baby Ruth. I'm a big Baby Ruth guy.
This is Brian, is Iggy's older brother. Hey, Brian, I love you, and we're all. I'm gonna see you Friday night.
Love you, Brian. James Welsh says, pretty good trade. Herbert would have been better.
Herbert?
Pretty funny.
You mean that quarterback?
Yeah. Maybe the Niners can trade Brock Purdy for him. All right. Here's what I want to talk about. 4 years ago, the Niners went to the Super Bowl. On that team, they had Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Robert Saleh, and D'Amico Ryans. 4 head coaches. Right now, Robert Saleh might be the coach of the year. What he's doing with the Jets is remarkable. He's a terrific head coach. Mike McDaniel seems to be a terrific head coach with the Dolphins. He's clearly a brilliant offensive mind. And then D'Amico Ryans in his first year, he's coached a few games. So far, so good. He looks promising. Now you got Kyle on his own. It's Kyle and Steve Wilks. And it's fair to wonder if this team has lost a whole lot of leadership, because 1 loss to PJ Walker turned into 3. And at the bye week, it seems like you got Kyle and Steve Wilks pointing the finger at each other. Like, this guy doesn't know the defense. And Steve Wilks is like, well, what did you expect from me? And now they're like, well, maybe we should bring him out of the booth and put him on the field. Like, that's where they're at. I don't know, Dad. Kyle Shanahan on his own. Is he a leader? Was he benefiting from other people's leadership in the past? And is this a leadership issue on this team?
I think there's a leadership issue on the team, and I don't think he's a leader. I want to make very clear what I think he is. I think he's a doodler. And what I mean is, he's a doodler. He likes to sit in a room by himself and doodle and make plays. He's very.
Mhm.
It's a game. It's like playing video games. He's a video
Yes.
game guy, and I don't know how he makes his plays on a screen, on a pad. Bill Walsh made it on a pad, but they didn't have screens in those days. Bill Walsh was more than a mere doodler. This guy is a dweeb. He's a doodler, and he's very comfortable doing that. When he had Salah on the team, Salah was on the sideline as opposed to this remote guy they have now up in the booth. And Salah would get excited and he'd curse and he'd run up to the players when the play was over and they were coming off the field. And he gave all of the emotion. It's an emotional game. It's
Yes.
not just
you.
doodling. It's
Thank
not
you.
just doodling. And Kyle doesn't seem to
That's a
have
really good point.
emotions except to be kind of sour sometimes. Salah gave all, and then Ryan's was the same way. And
Yeah.
Ryan's has such a lovely smile, and he
Yeah.
was so positive, and he was an arm around the back guy. Kyle isn't an arm around the back guy. Kyle's the kind of guy you wouldn't want to touch him on the shoulder because maybe he doesn't like to get touched. And maybe he
Right.
doesn't like to touch you. He wants to
Yeah.
be in a dim room doodling. So
Yes.
he got saved. This is all
He doesn't want to cheer
speculation.
you on either. He wants to knock you down a peg and tell you how you messed up.
Yeah, it's probably how his dad did with him.
Correct.
My guess. Again, these are all my theories. I don't know these people. But I think he was saved from himself in the past by having these ebullient, bubbly, brilliant,
Yeah.
outgoing guys at defensive coordinator. Now he has a guy like himself. He has
Correct.
a guy who doesn't want to be with Wilkes with the players. He wants to sit on Mount Olympus. He doesn't want to talk to anybody, see him. He's looking at his screen all the time. So you got two doodlers. And on a football team, you need someone to make up for the doodlers. You can't have dueling doodlers.
You can't have dueling doodlers. You
Can't have dueling doodlers. So
No.
one of the problems I have is, where's the leadership?
Yeah. Where? It ain't from Kyle. It never was Kyle. It was Robert Saleh's team. He was leading from the back seat. Then it was D'Amico Ryan's team. He was leading from the back seat. Now, whose team is this?
And Iggy, may I say something else? On really good teams, if you have a head coach who's weak, sometimes it's the quarterback. It could be Aaron Rodgers. It could be, the what's his name? The kid from San Mateo. Why am I blanking on his name?
Goff.
No, I don't mean him. I mean the famous
Brady.
one who was with
Sorry, that's
Brady.
Marin. That's Marin. Brady.
No, Goff is Marin.
That's what I'm saying.
Goff's Marin.
Brady's Mateo. Sorry.
Yeah. So you could have the quarterback. I'm sorry, guys. I'm old and I'm getting over COVID. I know Tom Brady. But on this team, the quarterback can't be the leader because he's under scrutiny himself. He's loused up the last under my thumb. You know the song by the Rolling Stones?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's under his thumb. And so he can't be the leader because I like to try to make an excuse. He's a virtual rookie. Well, he's not a virtual rookie, but he's a virtual rookie. So he can't take the leadership role. So it's not the coaches and it's not the quarterback. You got a problem. Who is it? Kyle Juszczyk? He's going to get up and he's going to enforce the standard. And people will say to him, what do you do? Who are you?
Uh-huh. Fred
You're
Warner.
a
It's supposed to be
passenger.
Fred Warner, right? Fred Warner went up after the game, after the Bengals lost, and the first question he got was, do you still have confidence in Brock Purdy? And he stood there as the leader of the team and said, what do you expect me to say to that? That's the best he could do. So, this team, that's why, they never should have lost 3 in a row. That, to me, is the mark of a team that has no leadership. Wouldn't have happened with D'Amico Ryans on the team. Wouldn't have happened with Robert Saleh on the team. This has been a team whose head coach was the defensive coordinator for 6 years. And now it's a team with no head coach. We've been saying for years, look, say what you want about Kyle Shanahan. He's not a head coach. It's manifesting in front of our eyes right now. And if they're going to turn this season around, Kyle's going to have to become the head coach he never has been.
Right.
I don't know if he's got it in him.
And stop being a mere doodler.
Got to stop doodling, man. You got to stop doodling.
He's doodling. Listen, wait, I want to finish. But someone pointed out, he's always looking at his play sheet. He's never looking at players. He's behind the play. He lives behind the play sheet. Even on the field, he's doodling.
Even on the field, he's doodling. That's a problem.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a brief break from our show to talk about our sponsor, Prize Picks. I'm getting into Prize Picks because I won. I want to show everyone my entry. This was from the other day. Past entries. I bet on Jared. I placed an entry on Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo. Jared Goff to go over 265 and Garoppolo to go under. We were watching last night. I got it right, and I wanted $180, and now I'm hooked. So let's do a game tonight. There's a game. You got to have a game. World Series, Corey Seager, total bases, 1.5, more than or less than, Dad. You call it.
Oh, more. Corey Seager is really a player. And Iggy, he's a throwback. I love watching him play. So more, over.
Why do you say he's a throwback?
Oh, he's a shortstop who hits for power? Ernie Banks?
Gotta like that. Don't know how the Dodgers got rid of him. Marcus Semien from the Bay Area, went to St. Mary's High School. Total bases, 1.5, more than or less than.
Under, because he's in a slump.
I like it. All right, let's stick with that. I'm going to stick with that.
Slump.
More for Corey Seager, less for Marcus Semien. I'm going to 60. I want to win 180 like yesterday. Place in my entry. Simple as that. If you guys want to play as well, use the link in the description. Promo code Cohn, COHN. Receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Thank you, Prize Picks. All right.
Okay, that was fun.
Okay, that was fun. All right, Dad, what is the biggest need on the 49ers right now?
Aside from leadership and non-doodling?
Like on the roster, give me a position group.
Okay, cornerback. Not even close.
Yeah, they got Fs at corner right now.
Yeah, cornerback. How
about, I'm going to go in a different direction because we've talked about that today. How about offensive line?
Oh, God. It's a Shanda.
Yeah, I mean, they lost Trent Williams and couldn't win a game without him. Now they've lost their left guard, Aaron Banks, who's the second best offensive lineman on the group. And he's going to miss about 2 or 3 games with turf toe. Well, how about a replacement for him? How about some reinforcements on the line?
It didn't even cross their mind, right?
No. It's like we gave them a D for the offensive line. They're cool with that. But we gave their D line a B-, and they're like, oh my God, we're the 49ers. A B- D line. We got to move that up. Like, what about your D offensive line that's banged up?
So, Iggy, let me ask you this. Go from left to right. Who is currently playing for them starting at left tackle? And tell us a little about each guy.
Trent Williams is supposed to come back after the bye week. So I guess Trent Williams, his backup is Jalen Moore, who's no good. He's was a former 5th round pick who is just a backup. Tries hard.
Okay, but Iggy, I thought against Cincinnati that he played reasonably well.
Yeah, until the end when he gave up the hit that snapped Brock Purdy's head on the ground.
Oh, that was him?
That was him.
Okay. All right.
Yes, it was. It absolutely was. Yes.
Okay.
Left guard is Aaron Banks. He's a good, not great player. He's their most powerful offensive lineman. He can push people around. He's kind of like a young Mike Upati, but not as good. And he has turf toe. He'll be out for the next 2-3 weeks.
And who's going to take his place?
John Feliciano, who had played for the Raiders, had played for the Giants, played for the Bills. He's been around. He can play guard or center. No team really wants him that much. He's a journeyman. So
okay.
He's okay. He's okay. Maybe they could have done better. At center, they got Jake Brendel, who's okay. At right guard, they have Spencer Burford, who's worse than okay. And at right tackle, they have Colton McKivitz, who's a bit of a liability. So that's what they got. They can't run to the right. Everything's to the left. And now their 2 guys on the left are hurt. Trent Williams coming back, Aaron Banks going out.
So it's very interesting. Kyle, who has a lot to say about getting players, is really saying to his defensive coordinator, Wilkes, you're not doing a good job, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to get you an edge rusher, and not looking in the mirror and saying, for the last 3 games, I haven't done a good job. Maybe I need help. He doesn't need help because he's Kyle. Right.
He's so good, and it's not his fault. It's Brock Purdy's fault and Steve Wilkes' fault. So Brock, you got to play better, or else they're going to go to Sam Darnold, who's great. And then Steve, you're clearly not up to snuff. So we'll get you some more talent and make it easy. We'll get you another top 3 pick on your D line, and hopefully that'll be enough for you. It's so obviously let's go over here,
right?
You know,
Yeah,
which to me
yeah,
is again a mark of a team that isn't cohesive, doesn't have leadership. This wasn't the
yeah.
culture that Robert Saleh created and D'Amico Ryans carried on. This is not that culture. This is a whole different team. It's a whole different
I
team.
I agree. And it's interesting, Iggy, when they had their first adversity, losing to this poor PJ Walker, they collapsed.
Yeah, they did.
Where's
They
leadership?
did. Like a fighter with a glass jaw.
They are currently a fighter with a glass jaw.
Yeah. And you look at the Jets. They lost Aaron Rodgers in the first drive. That's a team that doesn't have a glass jaw. That's a tough team. And
Yeah.
when you talk about head coaches creating a culture, it sounds silly, but that's the kind of stuff they're talking about. Look at the culture Robert Saleh has created with the Jets. That's the culture the Niners used to have and no longer have because he's
Right.
gone and D'Amico's gone and they didn't. Kyle, I gave Kyle credit for understanding his own limitations emotionally and for having defensive coordinators who could fill in for that. But maybe he didn't get it at all. Maybe he just thought that Robert Saleh was like a really good schematically a smart guy and didn't appreciate all the emotional stuff he was bringing to the equation because right now this Niner team has like no emotion. They're in shock.
He was very distant from Robert Saleh. He never called him Robert. He always called him Saleh.
Saleh.
He did,
Yeah,
right? I always wondered about that.
That is very interesting. Nassim says Bosa, Young, Hargrave, Armstead, Warner, Greenlaw. If Wilkes does not work this out week 10, he needs to be unemployed.
I would say that's fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam Eastman says, hi, Lowell. My dad, Brent Sr., was a big fan of your work when you were with this SF Chronicle. He loves tuning in for the Cohn Zone every week.
Please tell your dad, I'm sorry, Brent, hello.
Please. Adam Paul says, although PP had a bad stretch, watching Jimmy Garoppolo last night made me thank God for Brock Purdy.
I feel the same way. Jimmy we were watching together and we had the sound off because we were eating. And he threw that pick in the end zone. And I looked at Iggy and I said, did I just see what I just saw? And we started laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm old. Greg says 2 Cowboys fans talking right here. Yeah, we're definitely Cowboys fans. Mitch says, guys, let's pump the brakes. I vaguely remember the defense struggling in the first year with Saleh and Ryans. Didn't the Niners figure it out? I think the Niners defense was pretty good in Ryan's first year. And when Saleh first took over, they had no talent. KOSCG says, whose idea is it to run the wide 9? Kyle's. Is that what we've been running for the past 3 years? Yes. Is it too late to change? Yes. Too late.
And we want to get into that for a moment. That's a really good point. Poor Wilkes comes in. He has a certain idea about defense, and he's good at it. And Kyle says, you can be my coordinator, but you can't run your defense. You have to run one you know nothing about.
Yeah.
What a position to put that poor man in.
What a position. Absolutely. How arrogant to think that, well, anyone can run this system. He'll figure it out. Yeah. We have good players.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could have had Jim Schwartz. They could have had Jim Schwartz. The Browns hired him this year. If you want a guy who runs the wide 9, how about the guy who like pioneered it? But no, he's a little bit older than Kyle, and they have a little history, and he's like 9-1 against Kyle. And this Kyle want him in his organization, piping up, saying, I disagree with that. I wouldn't do that. I could beat that. I don't think Kyle wants that. KOSCG says, oh, got you. The coach. Hey.
Hi,
dueling
coach.
doodlers. Hey, coach. Dueling doodlers, diddling, delving deeply, dodging destinies, dawdling in distinct dreams as they drift, deferring the dynamic duty to direct and dictate. Man, that was some great alliteration, man. Let's do it again.
Thank
it was 10
you,
bucks.
Coach.
Let's do it again. It was $10. Dueling doodlers, diddling, delving deeply, dodging destinies, dawdling in distinct dreams as they drift, deferring the dynamic duty to direct and dictate. What a shame. I love that.
Oh, I love the coach.
That was poetic.
We're gonna work. We believe that the coach has incredible wisdom, and we're gonna bring this out.
Yeah, you'll see. Chance 099 says Kyle is student store manager who hires only friends. Yeah, and they're all better than him. Daza0187 says Ezra Cleveland was picked up for a 6th-round pick today. Couldn't we have gotten him? We passed on DeJuan Jones in the draft as well. Do they just not care about the offensive line? I think they just don't care about the offensive line.
Just don't care about it.
Fish and Chip says O-line Kyle would put you in it, wouldn't phase him. He'd put me in it. I'm really not built for that. B. Cruisin says Niners must have a really good hype man to distract people on what they truly need. Kyle Shenanigans needs to go. Sorry, props to you and Papa Cohn.
Thank you.
Andrew says Kyle Shanahan a dinkin' doodler. LOL. Dad, you got him with that doodler.
The doodler.
The doodler. Nolo you says if the Niners don't make the playoffs, is Kyle out? Love you guys. Shalom.
Oh, shalom. He just got an extension. Could we talk about that extension for a minute? I got to tell you, after 3 games, when Jed gave these 2 guys an extension, I said to Iggy, after
Genius.
3 games, I said they're going to lose some games. Lose some game. I mean, there's something's going to happen here. How do you give an extension after? And that's Jed in a nutshell. He's impetuous. He needs someone. Whenever he makes a decision, it has to be a 24-hour delay.
Yes.
Someone needs to say, you need to think about this for 24 hours.
He's got ants in his pants. He can't do nothing. Jed, do nothing today.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, last topic. I asked Kyle Shanahan a question yesterday, and it kind of went viral. A lot of people thought it was not a question worth asking. Some people appreciated it. Kyle Shanahan was not one of them. I'll tell you that. But he answered the question. Here's what it was. I said, Kyle, it was on a conference call. Kyle, will you consider making a change at quarterback during the bye week? And if not, why? Because I already knew he was going to say no, but I felt it was a fair question considering everyone's already firing Steve Wilkes. What about the guy who's committed 6 turnovers in the last 3 games? Kyle said, a change at what?
Yeah,
couldn't believe it. I said, quarterback. And he's long pause and he goes, no. And so I said, why? Because that was part of the original question. And another long pause. He goes, because you don't just bench a guy for no reason. End of story. What do you think of that exchange?
Well, I want to talk about it as a former journalist. There were 2 key questions that had to be asked yesterday. One about your defensive coordinator, the other about your quarterback. Quarterback's lost 3 games in a row. He's given it up 6 times in the last 3 games and is responsible for losing 2 of the last 3. I'm not saying solely responsible, but heavily responsible. A responsible journalist asks pertinent questions, not like, how's his hamstring? Is his hamstring better? No, you're not there to be a stenographer. You're there as a journalist to be in charge. At those weekly press conferences, Kyle is not in charge. He's the subject. We're in charge. We're the director. Imagine
he's the object.
We're making a, he's the object. I'm sorry. Yeah. We're the subject. You got me. Gotcha. And you're right. We're the director of a movie and he's the actor and we're moving him around. He is responsible to us. We are not responsible to him. Look at White House press conferences. They ask whatever her name is or the president questions and they have to answer. That's how it works. That's journalism. Well, they had just lost 3 games in a row. If I were there, but I wasn't, but Iggy was there, God love him. His job is not to make nice to Shanahan. They're not friends. They don't go out to dinner together. He doesn't have Shanahan's phone number. His job is to ask pertinent questions. They were asking about Wilkes, pertinent. The other question is, what's going on with your quarterback and do you have plans? Are you thinking about it? And God damn it, he is thinking about it, Iggy. No matter what he says to you, he's thinking about it.
Better be.
You made him uncomfortable. You didn't mean to make him uncomfortable, but you asked him a pertinent question. He should be uncomfortable. He's lost 3 games in a row, his 2 mediocre teams, and his team is in free fall. He should not walk out of that room thinking, boy, that was easy. No, that here was someone who asked me a pertinent question. It made me uncomfortable. What are my answers? So I think as a journalist, you did the right thing. If you were there to be friends with Shanahan or to make him feel good about losing 3 in a row, then you failed. But as a journalist, I give you an A+.
Well, thank you. And the part that surprised me is that Kyle wasn't prepared for it. How comfortable are you with us that you didn't think anyone there was going to ask about Brock Purdy? Really? Really? That's amazing.
Well, that's not a reflection on him. That's a reflection on the media.
It is.
Why does he feel that comfortable? When Ira Miller and I were doing it,
yeah.
Iggy, when Ira Miller and I were doing it, Bill Walsh didn't feel comfortable. Seifert, these were winners. They when we asked the question, they paid attention. Mariucci never felt comfortable with me. When I see him, he'll look away. He still doesn't like me. Harbaugh liked it because he likes competition. He would be let down if I didn't put him on the spot. And he had a twinkle in his eye when I would ask him a question like you asked. He would endorse your question.
He's a tough guy. He's a tough guy.
Tough guy. Yeah.
He's a tough guy.
And Kyle apparently isn't.
I mean, he can be very generous with his answers when he's winning. But 3-game losing streak, bye week. I didn't even say, I wasn't like, hey, Kyle, when are you going to bench your quarterback? When are you going to smarten up and bench your quarterback? I just said, are you going to consider making it? Not even are you going to make it? Are you going to consider making a change at the bye week? And I know you're going to say no. So just explain why you're not going to even consider benching a quarterback who's lost 3 straight, committed 6 turnovers in those games, and really has very little track record of success. Why are you not even considering benching him? And he said, well, because there's no reason to. I mean,
no reason.
Okay.
I'll tell you another reason. There are 6 reasons that we've just mentioned, but in addition, he's shown no ability to bring a team back in the fourth quarter.
None. His quarterback rating in the fourth quarter is 82, while he's off the charts in the other 3 quarters. What does that mean? That's a bad sign.
You need a quarterback who can. Joe Montana, he could have a crummy game. And then, but he won. He came back in the fourth quarter. This kid isn't Joe Montana. In the fourth quarter, he gives it up.
Right. If it's close. If it's close, he gives it up.
These are things the coach needs to consider. And the fact that he never even thought, he was so surprised by your question, he didn't hear it. It didn't make sense to him.
And the way I interpret it is, it's not that he hasn't considered benching Brock Purdy. It's that he wasn't prepared for the question at that moment.
I would agree.
And considered it.
Of course he's considered it.
Yes. You kidding? And Dad, if Bill Walsh were the coach of this team and they just lost 3 games in a row and he had a 23-year-old quarterback who's going down the tank, what would happen? Would he call you?
Yeah. Let's say I was retired, right? And Bill Walsh, he would call me. He'd say, Lowell, I got a problem here. I mean, he's done things like that. I got a problem. I got this kid. He can't win. He can't. He gives it up in the fourth quarter. He can't come back. But I got this backup. I don't believe in him either. Lowell, I got a real problem. And then he'd feel sorry for himself and all that. And that's where Kyle is. He's got a backup he doesn't believe in, but he's got a backup he endorsed and got rid of the other kid for this backup. So he's put himself in checkmate, Iggy. If Brock Purdy doesn't work out, he's put himself in checkmate.
He really has. He really has. And I think that's why he didn't want to answer the question. He wants to deflect from the quarterback issue as much as possible. But that's his, you called Brock Purdy the real deal. You called Sam Darnold the next Steve Young. You got to make this work. You love both of these quarterbacks, man. Make it work. Yeah. And if Brock isn't working, then why don't you want to see the other one who's so great?
I'm with you.
Arturo says, hey, I'm Steve Wilkes, 1 thumb in my mouth, other thumb. Wow. Okay. I'm not saying that. Ezio Sanchez says, start 1, bench 1, and cut 1 of the following: Purdy, Timurtay, and Sean Hill. I'll say start Tim, bench Sean, and do I need to say the rest? Start 1, bench 1, and cut 1. I'll take Purdy over.
I'll take Purdy over those guys.
Timurtay was awful, but that was a long time ago. Jimmy Kwan says accountability is a key part of leadership, holding others accountable as well as yourself. I think Schwartz would hold Kyle accountable. Kyle doesn't hold himself publicly. No Super Bowl win until he does. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not betting on this guy to win a Super Bowl this year.
No.
He's never. I've never. We've said it before, but please let me say it again. I've never seen a coach so highly regarded who hasn't won a Super Bowl. You think this guy was Bill Belichick.
Right.
He never won a Super Bowl.
Never. He's a genius, Dad. He's way ahead of the game. Jimmy Kwan, good call. Fish and Chips says more pertinent questions, maybe his game plan.
I love this Fish and Chips. Is he coming? Fish and Chips, is he from Great Britain?
I believe so, with the pound.
Okay.
Bala Vision says Kyle's best friend Chris Sims threw a subliminal shot at you on Twitter about that question. Tell him, put an ad on it next time. LOL, bring the heat. I like Chris Sims, and he's fair. You know, he's got a pass to take shots at me. He once gave me like a half hour on the phone, one-on-one, about left-handed quarterbacks like 8 years ago. So I'm always grateful to Chris, and I like Chris. So go ahead. Maybe if you thought it's a bad question, that's what sports is all about. Nolo U says Kyle strikes me as a nagging wife for his quarterbacks.
Ooh, I don't know about nagging wives.
I don't know about
I
that.
never had one.
I don't see it like that. I see it as he doesn't want to be in a relationship with a quarterback. Like he's always looking for a way out. Always.
I see him as a dominating remote father.
Interesting. It's not a 50-50 partnership. It's a father-son thing.
And remote.
Yeah.
One of those.
Dominating.
Never hugs, never tells you you're good, never tells
praises.
you he loves you. Yeah.
Never praises. Yeah. Bass Spokane Niner fan says, would Kyle have to answer if you gave Brock stats before asking if he was going to consider it? Kyle wouldn't have to do anything.
You don't have that much time.
Fish and Chip says fourth quarter. Don't forget Kyle's wobble under duress.
He's a wobbler.
Kyle wobble.
In addition to being a doodler, he's a wobbler.
He's got both tendencies. Nolo U says Harbaugh would invite a quarterback controversy.
Yeah, Harbaugh is like me. He likes controversy. He's like
Harbaugh's nuts.
He has that kind of personality.
That. Yeah. Jim, if you're watching, I miss you, man. Dad,
yeah, we miss you.
I love you.
Hey, I enjoyed this today. I'm going to go take a nap. I love you. I love you, Grant.
I love you, Dad. You look a lot better. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you a call, though.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thanks for putting up with me today. This was a lot of fun, and we'll talk next week.
We'll talk next week.